Okay, well, thank you for coming to class number 2. Somebody, you guys actually showed up again, so I thank you for coming back.
Yep.
I'm tweaking this a little bit. Last time, I don't think anybody actually watched this thing, but I had it really focused in on me for some arrogant reason, and Bernie's commentary was kind of in the background. So I want to make sure Bernie's sitting right next to me. So and he's kind of facing the microphone there, and we can get a clear get Bernie's commentary clearly. What I'd like to try to do tonight is kind of recap a little bit on chapter 1 and 2 because we ran out of time last time, and then move on to 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6. And then next week we'll get into chapter 3 of the book, and then I've got some stuff to talk about in the safety book. And then the following week, the 27th, is it 27th, 21st? Must be the 21st. Then I've got Alan Franson coming in. He's going to talk to us again about some safety issues that when he did a study on it. I think it's worthwhile to spend a couple of sessions on safety. It's extremely important, and we need to really kind of delve into that deeply. Yeah.
Make sure you're recording those too.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch those remotely.
Okay, not a problem. Yeah, they'll be all recorded.
Great.
Okay. We kind of briefly talked about this little book, Join the Race Committee book, and it's a great little book. It really breaks down all the different jobs on the committee boat. And it gives a good explanation of what they do. Now, in a large club with unlimited funds and unlimited amounts of people, they can have a different person doing each job. But for us, everybody's got to double up and do 2 and 3 jobs. I typically, when I was the rear commodore, I typically tried to make sure we had 4 people on the boat. That seemed to work pretty well. It was enough bodies on the boat to get the job done without overloading the boat with excess people with not very much to do. I was also very cognizant of the who we had on the boat. It's one thing to have just 4 warm bodies, but you have to have people capable of doing different things. For example, as great as Bernie is, he's not going to be able to lift me out of the water if I'm unconscious. So we need an appropriate mix of folks, novice folks and experienced folks, strong backed guys versus small petite girls. There's plenty of work for everybody on the job. So so consequently, I try always to take a look at who I'm getting as a volunteer and then move things around if it looks a little dicey. When you guys are doing PRO, you're going to need to be able to take a look at the talent that you've got available to you and assign folks a job. If you got some little girl on the boat, then put her as a timer or line sider or something like that. And use the strong back for lifting the anchor out of the mud or going recovery person. We have capabilities to affect 2 water rescues at the same time, one on the John boat, one on the committee boat. If the committee boat has to run off to get somebody, you can just simply untie the anchor rod. It's got a float on there. Bernie's got that set up super well, and then you can go off and do whatever you need to do, and then come back, put the anchor rod back on, and you're sitting right exactly where you was before you had to leave.
That doesn't affect the race
If
at all.
boats are finishing, they
Yeah.
just take their time from the float and the mark in the water.
Yeah,
or-
but
or-
who's gonna take that time
Them,
with nobody there? Oh,
Them.
They would just come back and report it to the race committee later when
if they have watches.
Yeah, or they can also gauge. I was 30 seconds behind Bob, or a relative
Okay.
position. You
Okay.
can to record the finishing. That's in case the committee vote has to.
Which is a pretty dramatic emergency when you have two.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Yeah. Keep in mind there is a ladder on the bow of the committee boat. It's easy to forget it's there. It's underneath of the deck, and you just simply slide the ladder out. Did you even know?
I did not know that.
Okay, it's been there for forever.
10 years.
10 years, yeah. And it slides out very, very easily, and it's a boarding ladder so that you can get somebody out of the water if they're too big to get up. They can climb the ladder to get out. But it is there, and use it if necessary. In your when you're a PRO, you're responsible for everything that happens out there on the water, all the racers as well as the committee boat people. And you may have to make that hard decision sometime that if you don't feel it's safe to either sail or you don't feel it's safe to have the committee boat crew that you have available to you, if it's not safe to operate or conduct a race that day, whether it's weather conditions or whatever, you may have to make a hard decision as to abandon races someday. And at least for me, I'll support whatever decision you make. But it's safety first out here on the water. But you're the PRO is the person responsible for making the decisions, and you've got to keep everything in mind in terms of safety for all the crews on the boats. Although technically they're responsible for making the ultimate decision to sail or not. We don't want to be in this position of saying, hey, you conducted a race in unsafe conditions, and we routinely have situations that come up weather-wise that you have to make that judgment. Multiple times we've had to we're watching our radar on our phones, and we're watching the radar, the storms coming in, and we're having to get people off the lake. Lightning is a particularly bad thing, and we have a lightning detector on there. And but the problem with the lightning detector is you can't tell if the lightning is getting closer or further away.
yes, you can.
All it tells you is
No,
5 miles away.
No, if you hold it up and push the on-off button,
Yeah.
the lights on the top will go away or towards you,
Oh, really?
depending on the storm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And
Thank God you're here.
yeah. Well, that's why I
Yeah.
didn't even here to correct all my mistakes.
Well, not a mistake. It's just that I've done it more often.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the one that bought the original one like 12 years ago. But when it first came out, that was the big high-tech gadget, lightning detector. And since then, clubs can buy them. Got to have permanent things. They can buy a whole set for $100, and 10 in all. That'll go 60 miles, 80 miles, and do the same thing. Wichita got one right after that for the same reason. But yeah, it's push the button, the on-off button, hold it, and if the lights go away from you, the storm is going that direction. If the lights come to you, the storm is coming in.
Oh, good to know. I'll have to look at that. Play with
So-
that. Anyway, look at that little booklet and kind of read through it. It's a quick read, and it's a really well put together book. And again, as the PRO, you're going to have to assign people different jobs and according to their abilities.
Knowing that a storm is coming in, you give the contestants or the participants, about 20 minutes? Half an hour?
Well,
lead time?
You depends
gotta-
on where you're at on the lake.
You got to listen to the weather radio, and if you got a phone,
Yeah.
you can look at that and you listen to the radar detector. And if you're saying it's in Lenexa and it's moving at 20 mile an hour, you got an hour at the most to get them off the lake. And what you usually do is you abandon them, and if there's a breeze, you tell them to sail in, not necessarily to the dock, but to the closest shore. If there's no breeze, then you start having them drop their sails and tow them in with the committee boat and the John boat, and you tie them up to the dock, and you leave the boats and you go up in that shelter house behind the marina. You don't let them take their boats to the top of the hill.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
good point.
But your point is accurate. Yeah, you have to allow enough time to get everybody in. So you have to make that decision early as to what's going to happen. You can't wait till the last minute because
Can't wait till you see the thunderheads
No,
right overhead.
you're way too late there. And if you're down in A-arm someplace, it's going to take a good
It's gonna take a while.
20, 30 minutes to get those boats up there to the dock. So anyway,
If you cannot get them ashore, have them turn the boats over and capsize, turtle, and get under them.
If it's that bad.
There's plenty of air. Hang on to hiking straps. If you have one of those really nasty lightning thunderstorms come rolling in, and you know you can't get the people in, at least have them capsize. Get the mast in the water, and then stay in the boat. If
Gotcha.
they can, turn it over. It's the safest thing you can do.
Especially with 70-mile-an-hour winds. like we
Well,
had
yeah,
the
you
other
know.
day.
Yeah.
And it happened so fast here. This is the oh shit weather capital of the world.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay. Moving on to let's see, chapter 2. Chapter 2 things. Just like it says in the book, we may take an inventory at the end of the year. What's working, what's not working, what people like, don't like, what they're complaining about, and all that kind of good stuff. Our sailing season ends in November. At the end of November. The new board is installed at the December board meeting. We have board meetings the first Monday of every month. And then when I was Rear Commodore, I would start asking people, well, what do you like? Do you want to change anything? All that kind of stuff. The club changes something every year. We seldom go 2 years in a row with the same racing format. Like last year, we eliminated the Wyatt Cup regatta. We eliminated the Two of a Kind race, and then we installed the Grand Invitational Regatta.
I think we were drinking. That's all I can do.
That makes sense.
I
I
think
was
Peggy
gonna
had
say.
a glass of wine too many, and the word grand got thrown in there.
There you go.
I think it had to do with the 60th year, and that's why it was a grand.
Okay.
Let me kind of go over that because I happen to be working on the NOR and the SI of that regatta right now.
Okay.
What happened was a club member, Fred Langford, pointed out that hey, we don't have a regatta that highlights one design racing. We have two events, the BBK, which is coming up in 2 weeks, and the last race of the season, the Transjack. Both are handicap events. All boats start at the same time, and they're all handicapped together. But we didn't have any events that was really one design racing. So John said, "Okay, well, we'll do the Invitational Regatta." Well, we just called it. I don't know why we didn't call it John's Regatta, but.
Because nobody would show up.
There's some truth in that.
We settled on the format of, well, there's going to have 4 races. I don't know how we came up with 4 races, but somehow we came up with 4 races, 3 different starts. And so all the lasers are racing against all the lasers, Sweet 16s against other Sweet 16s. Whoever shows up, I think 3 boats made a fleet. So it was fleet racing against themselves. And the regatta worked out really well. In light of Chapter 2 thought process, and that's why I'm kind of going over this. This is not going to make any sense to you at all, Wes, because you've never been in a regatta yet. But,
Right.
you got to think through, all the process of this regatta. For example, we're going to have a skippers meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, we could have it earlier. But you got to be thinking, well, if you're driving in from Olathe, you're dragging your boat from Olathe, you're having to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get here by 8.
Right.
So you really can't have your skippers meeting much before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
We're going to have some food, some breakfast items for folks, so they can eat a little something in the morning, and then you have your skippers meeting. Well, by the time you get all that done, you've killed an hour, at least. And we're trying to get 60 boats out here in this regatta. Well, some folks might be here before 8 o'clock and start setting their boats up, but chances are they're not going to start setting their boats up until, or have them completed until after the skippers meeting. And then they got to get all those boats down to the water and launched and out on the race course. So it's really going to press folks to get out there and be ready to race by 10 o'clock. So I set the first race at 10 o'clock, and that's going to be a challenge to get that done, especially 60 boats, because there's just not enough dock space to handle 60 boats tied up. I mean, we can do some things like run a line around the cleats and give some extra places to tie up, but it's going to be a challenge just to get the boats out there on the race course at by 10 o'clock. And then on the back end, I'm thinking, well, we're going to have a dinner after the race. But folks are going to have been out there since 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're not going to want to spend all night out here at the lake.
Right.
It's going to be a Sunday, and most folks are going to have to get up and go to work the next morning. So we really need to have a dinner about 5 o'clock. So that means racing needs to end about 4 o'clock so that they can have a chance to put the boats away and get from down there up here to the where we're having the dinner. So we got a 6-hour window of time to get 4 races in.
And we had how many boats?
Well,
21? 22 boats.
60.
Right,
Last year.
I don't remember, but
It was 20.
it was pretty well attended.
21 or 22 boats.
So we got a 6-hour window of time to get these races, and the math works out. Someplace I've got it here.
So you figure it out as per chapter 6.
Okay.
Seven, 5,
3 starts.
chapter 5.
That means there's 72 minutes of the day consumed in starting races. Because each start is 6 minutes long, and there's three starts and 4 races, so that's 72 minutes. We can put some nice 45-minute races in there, four races at 45 minutes long, but it's closer to an hour of a race because there's going to be stragglers that doesn't get finished up in the amount of time, right?
You and me both.
So that's 240 minutes of racing time. 4 races, an hour long. We'll try to set the course at 45 minutes long, but it's really more like an hour by the time you get everybody reset. And then there's some prep time in between the races, and where we put up to come within hail flag, and we can do the quick turnaround on that. Say 5 minutes, and then start and get the races started. So that's 327 minutes, or 5.5 hours. So that works in our time frame.
Okay. Do we have any rangefinders on the boat to identify where we put the marks,
No.
distance-wise?
No. We really set the marks according to what really kind of works for the wind that day, and on this lake the wind cycles all over the place.
I'm just wondering, because what was it in chapter
6? Yeah.
It was they had the graphs and stuff out to where if we did have a rangefinder on the boat, at least we could.
We typically don't try to set an isosceles triangle real exact, or an equilateral triangle. We don't really try to do that too awful much.
We do the BI.
We just don't want another
the BE method.
northwest wind.
Bernie's eyes.
Bernie's eyes.
Well, last week's race, except for being a breeze, was the worst possible wind for Lake Chicomo. There's nothing you can do. If you go down to Liggett's Cove, when it cycles back, half Liggett's Cove is dead. You go to A-arm, when it cycles back the other way, half of A-arm is dead. So you're just toast. We just won't have a northwest wind.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to do it with northwest wind.
Not allowed. Okay.
Okay.
Noted.
Sunday night, I found out that, and so that's my thought process for the template for how I was going to put this race together. It works in our amount of time. We work through all the steps of putting the race together. And keep in mind, the race committee is responsible for writing the SI, the sailing instructions.
Right.
The organizing authority is responsible for writing the notice of race. That's on the test. So, however, it's a small club, and the organizing authority delegates that
Delegates that back onto you.
Delegates it down to the race chairman or whatever it is. Okay.
For the last 10 years, I'm just following a history.
Oh, you're
There you go.
tradition, following that.
Okay, so Sunday night I find out that the Sweet 16 Nationals would like to be included as part of this regatta.
Oh.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And who do you think said that's a great idea and broadcast that?
Okay. Well,
Then I got a reply from Mark. Are you nuts?
It's a little bit more than just a few extra Sweet
Yeah.
16s out there. It creates a really major two problems. Number one, the first problem is if you think about what makes a good Sweet 16 national. Well, Sweet 16s fly at spinnaker, so you want nice long spinnaker runs involved in that. You would like to have pretty much clear a lake, not a lot of extra traffic on the lake, because you don't want all that dead air and bad air and other boats in the way. because having sea scows going around a mark at the same time you're having Sweet 16s going around the mark.
Takes all the air out.
And remember, a Sweet 16 is a pretty slow boat. It's a 96 handicap. So it's really one of the slowest boats out there on the lake.
No.
Yeah, exactly. I feel it every week.
Okay, so that's one issue. We're going to have as part of if the Sweet 16s are going to be part of this regatta, they're going to have to deal with the fact that they're going to have a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Okay, the second thing issue is if you're going to have a Sweet 16s national, you really almost need to give them their own start, right?
Right. This is the national.
This is the national.
If it's a national, then that goes to goes to the.
So that means if we only have 3 starts, right? So if you're going to give one to the Sweet 16s, everybody else is dumped into the other two starts.
Yeah.
That means that's going to make a lot of
your single design races. Then.
well,
Yeah,
it hurts it. Doesn't
You
necessarily.
put the Bayliner in with the Sea Scout, and you're going.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so how are we going to fix the problem? Well, we go
More starts.
go to more starts. Okay, so with a
Then you have enough time.
okay, yes, it screws up your schedule because now if you're going to have 6 starts, let's assume that we're going to have a maximum of 6 starts. 6 starts is 108 minutes of starting time out of our 5 or 6 hour window of time. So the solution to that is to get rid of a race.
Sure.
Go to 3 races. Then we're down to 225 minutes of racing time. But we're going to need with 6 starts. You're likely to have boats coming have gone up to the windward mark and coming back down while you're still getting start number 5 and start number 6 in there. But there is a solution to that, and I'll go over that here in just a second. But to clear the line of all the starters, we need longer races, a longer race than 45 minutes, because remember, let's see, we need to get everybody out of the line onto the race course before the first starters start finishing.
Sure.
And there needs to be a nice clean window of time there.
Well, but we can also fix that with a
Separate finish line.
separate finish line, separate.
Could.
You could, yeah.
Or
could.
you
Or we can at least help alleviate that. And
But
or you could
one,
extend. You could extend the windward mark 2 out.
if you wanted to keep the
If
course
you wanted
short.
to keep the course short. Yeah.
But my solution to it is just have a longer race. Have an hour-long race instead of a 45-minute long race. But an hour then it translates to about 75 minutes actually of racing time. So 3 races, 75-minute races. That's 225 minutes of racing time. Only 2 come within hail prep times. That's 10 minutes. 340 minutes. That's 5.6 hours. So that works. So that was the solution that we came up with to fix the problem of it also has the added benefit of a longer race helps the Sweet 16s because we can set a nice long course for them and well, I forgot now what I was going to say. But anyway, there is some solutions to problems.
Okay.
To the solution to the problem of boats coming in through the line as we're trying to start it is what we do a closed line. And we put that in the sailing instructions.
Okay.
Normally, our start-finish line is open. You can sail through it anytime you like. However, for this event, we'll have a closed line, and meaning you can only go through the line if you're starting or if you're finishing. Any other time, it's an obstacle on the race course, and you have to sail around it. If you sail through it, you're DSQ. Anyway, I bring all this up, not so much as I bring it up so that you can kind of get a sense of how you think through the process of putting a regatta together, and it's very much this business in Chapter 2.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Okay.
I like it.
Let's see. Is there anything else we need to talk about? Back to our season ends in December, or starts in December. We generally try to have everything finalized by the 1st of February, or at the February meeting, so that we can notify the county that we're going to use the lake, because we have to ask them for permission every year to use the lake and conduct our races. And we have to give them a schedule as to what days we're using it and all this kind of stuff, and they want 60 days notice before we start using it. So that means if we're going to have a race May 1st or the end of April, we have to have everything finalized by the 1st of February and get it in and get our approval. Let's see. I guess that's. Back to this Chapter 2 stuff. I know it's coming. I haven't heard about anything yet, but I know it's coming. Our illustrious leader one of these days is going to come up and say, "Mark, we don't have a 2-day event."
I was involved with a 2-day event once, and it's not fun.
Okay. Yeah. So back to relative to Chapter 2, you have to start thinking about, well, okay, if there is a 2-day event, and if we're going to try to encourage people to come up from Oklahoma to come to this thing, you got to start thinking about, well, what are you going to do about lodging, or are we going to tell them you're on your own at the hotel down the street, or are you going to try to hook up volunteers to house folks for the event? Are we going to have a campground? Perry's got a real nice campground, so they do 2-day events, and they camp out and they have a big bonfire and it's a big party. If you might have to think about something to do with the boats. Are they going to drag it back home or wherever they're staying, or are you going to try to find a secure spot to park them overnight? All these things. So whenever you start thinking about a 2-day event or this invitational ground, you look through Chapter 2, and it helps you think of things that you may not have thought of, because it's pretty well written and put together there. Anything else? Okay. On to Chapter 4. That's the insurance and legal stuff. The county requires us to have $2 million of liability insurance, and we do have $2 million of liability insurance. And it's they talk about Chubb as the insurance underwriter, and that is in fact who underwrites our.
That is still in effect.
They are. They yes.
Do we have certificates of insurance from Chubb?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I don't have one with me, but
Okay.
yes, it has to be sent to
And that's through U.S.
The county.
Well, U.S. Sailing works with Chubb to put together this a package deal.
Right.
It's a very structured package. There is no
Wiggle room.
wiggle room or customization of that. In fact, when I'm kind of the liaison between our insurance carrier and us. The county only used to require $1 million of insurance. And then they upped it to 2. So I got on the phone, I said, hey, we need to up this to $2 million. We can't do that, and oh shit,
Right.
then so the only alternative we had was to get an umbrella policy for that
Right.
extra.
And that's a 10 million, if I remember right.
Well, our umbrella is only 1 million.
Oh, your umbrella is only 1 million?
Only 1 million. It's already expensive enough as it is. It's about $3,800 a year
Yeah.
for this $2 million worth of insurance.
Okay.
But we do have insurance, and it's $2 million through Chubb. We do not have any insurance on our club boats because that's
We're self-insured.
Yeah.
That's right. Self-insured.
You gotta realize that I was in the insurance
Oh.
industry for 30 years.
Oh, great! Our new liaison.
As a risk manager.
Oh, okay. Our new contact person and person to deal with.
Damn, I shouldn't have said anything.
Is there anything we should know about?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you should know about, but we don't have time to go over it right here. We can get together later.
Oh, okay. I'm a pretty good drywaller, but in terms of legal and stuff, I don't know a damn thing.
I can shed some light.
Oh,
Stuff.
super.
They paid pretty well when we had a claim.
Yeah.
The best of my knowledge, we've only had one claim, and it was a couple of years ago when Bernie broke his leg.
Kickboxing, Thai kickboxing on the dock.
All I
had money
asked
on
for
Bernie.
was my out of pocket,
Yeah.
and my out of pocket was right at $5,000 for falling on the committee boat and fracturing my left femur.
Aflac.
Well, I didn't have an income.
Yeah, I know you did.
But they were more than fair. They asked for my receipts, what I spent, and I sent them. And she said, "Let me know when you get out of rehab, and we'll settle up." And I said, "We're done." And they sent me a check. That's all there was to it. They're easy to work with. I will say, don't fall and break your leg. It isn't worth the $3,000 and the 16 weeks on one leg and the rest of that stuff. But it was nice that it worked.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's there for.
So
Yeah. And I complained about
There's-
the extra million.
Yeah.
And
You
Fred and
don't
I had
wanna
dinner.
complain with that.
Fred and I had dinner one night. He said, "Remember, John, after they go through that first million, they're coming after you."
Yes.
Yes.
And all the members, not just the Commodore.
Oh, good. I'll take everybody with me.
The rest of that stuff in there about the legal, personally, I don't trust much about what that book had to say. I don't know.
Well, I read about, what they were talking about, the indemnification, hold harmless agreements and all of these statements, the hold harmless on some of these things, and it does not hold up.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
it's window dressing.
It's window dressing. It has to be worded by, like they said in the book, it has to be reviewed and worded by a person that knows sailing, that has experience in sailing law.
Yeah,
And we don't have anybody in
No.
that in this area.
no. So, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think we're very lucky that nothing has happened over the years.
Yeah.
One of the things though I think is in our favor is that we are constantly looking and trying to do things proper, do things safely, and we do look out for each other. I think that's
If you want me to do a risk analysis, I can.
probably wouldn't hurt.
All right, I can do that. I've got all the forms and stuff.
Fire Bernie.
Get all
And
those,
take the Commodore with him.
get all those waivers, get all those waivers signed. You're not liable for anything.
Because I would need to have some of the contracts and some of the bylaws and all of that other stuff, and I could do, put together a pretty good risk analysis.
Okay.
For the organization, if you wanted to.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All that should be available on the website as to a member.
The bylaws are definitely on the website. I can get you a copy of the insurance contract. I've got a
Okay.
copy of it. And what else do we need?
Well,
That's a start.
Yeah.
that's a start. Then I'll have to go in. I'll probably have to do some interviews,
Oh.
and get some
Sounds like
risk
we-
assessments and stuff like that. done.
Sure. Keep in mind, we're all volunteers.
Well,
We're
doesn't matter.
Yeah. So we're all flying by the seat of our pants.
And I dealt with that for quite a few years, where organizations
Fire
like this,
departments, volunteer fire departments.
I've actually had to evaluate fire departments
Yeah.
before, police departments. I actually had to do a prison one time. There was a private prison down in Nevada, actually. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so I've done that. So I can do that for you.
Okay, appreciate it. Let's see. You guys got any questions about insurance or legal? I mean,
It's all Greek to me.
yeah, it's all Greek to me as well. Yeah, so, okay, chapter 5. We have done just pretty much every one of these at one time or another. These formats in chapter 5. We've done last couple of years. We did match racing in the Wyatt Cup, which is now we don't have that race anymore. But we've done match racing. We've round robins. We've just every thing conceivable. And it's because we just keep changing things, and I think that's a strength of the club, is that we're keeping it fresh. When you're writing, we have 2 events of the year that you write special NORs and SIs, and that's this invitational regatta and the novice regatta. The BPK, the club series, all that main stuff, the Transjack, those are all listed out in the main sailing instruction. And here I've got copies of the sailing instructions. There's a sailing instruction.
I already got it.
Oh, you got one? Okay. Did I give you the same? Okay. You'll see on August 4th here, it says see separate NOR and SI for the invitational regatta. And then on the next page, we got the September 2, the novice regatta, and that's a separate NOR. So now is the perfect time to start thinking about when I'm writing the NOR and the SI for those events. Do we want to change up the format? Do we want to put a match racing component in there? Because we can do anything we want. So now's the golden opportunity to be thinking about those kinds of things. We used to have a race called 2 of a Kind, which was team racing. Ideally, it would have teams in the same type of boat. 2 Sweet 16s racing against 2 windmills, against 2 sea scows, or whatever. In later years, we got less and less participation in it, and then we were having to team different boats of different types. You know, a Sea Scout with a Sweet 16, and you know, and then figure it all out handicap wise. So it kind of lost its luster, and we dropped it. But you know, it can always be revived, or in a a different format, or have some other little twist to it. Let's see.
We're not gonna have any of the, races that provide boats.
Well, we got club boats that.
Club boats, I wouldn't put, from a risk management standpoint, I wouldn't put them into a provided boat context.
Why so?
It makes a difference in regard to the liability coverage. Because when you have provided boats, then the responsibility is back on the committee and the organization. Whereas if it's if they're getting it from
Part of a membership?
part of a membership as their own boat as part of a membership, it's their responsibility.
So because they are a member,
Because
they are as
a
much
member,
an owner as
they're as much an owner as
well, that would come down to the definition of an owner, because none of us own anything.
Right.
So there must be a legal
But
definition
it's-
that I'm
it's a
not
legal
aware of.
definition of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we as a race committee or as a regatta organizer provide boats, say you provide
Sweet 16.
25 Sweet 16s to people that come in and you're doing the round robin races and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that takes on a whole different connotation in risk management. So, but with just if all we're doing is we're signing up to take a Sweet 16 out as part of the membership, part of the boat share, that's not considered boats that are provided for the regatta.
Like a rental.
Yeah,
I can see the fine line in the law.
there is.
I can't appreciate it. I can see it. There's a difference between those
There's
two.
a difference. There's a
But
difference.
so could we thwart the law by selling a membership? Kind of like in Oklahoma when you go to the bar to drink, you can't drink, so they sell you a membership in order to get around the law.
In order to get around that, well, you've only got 6 boats up there anyway.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking though, if we have a boat that isn't being taken out, and I have a friend, Charles Sedgwick, from Lake Quivira, and he's not allowed to bring his boat because of the snails. I'd love to have Charles come and race with us at a regatta. He's a good sailor. I would have, until this conversation, I would have said, Charles, take that extra Sweet 16 and knock yourself out. Take it out
Yeah.
under my name.
if he takes it out under your name, then that's different.
Because he's not paying for it?
We as a regatta are not providing the boats for the race.
You were loaning him a boat.
Yeah, but the
Your
boat's
name.
not owned by me, it's owned by the club.
Yeah, but, well,
Is
actually,
this another
Well,
fine
that's
line?
where
That's fine line
Okay.
comes into effect.
but you can't loan a boat.
We did
That's part of the boat share.
the Ida Lewis down in Oklahoma City Boat Club,
Good point.
and they borrowed
I do it all the time.
member boats that had J22s.
Mhm.
And the members gave permission for somebody out of town to sail the boat. In turn, he signed a waiver and gave him a $500 check for incidentals. If he runs to the ground, hits somebody, it's my fault. In other words, he took it off.
It's a security
Took it off.
deposit.
Took it off
That's all it is.
the boat owner. See,
Yeah.
and the second thing they did, because they wanted to be run really fair, they had the guy who was a national champion come out and tune all the boats the same, you know,
See, there's a difference between the regatta
yeah,
providing the boats
right,
and club-owned boats.
yeah, there is. Well, these were,
But if the club provides the regatta with the boats,
that's what the Ada Lewis did.
that's, you
And,
gotta
yeah,
stay
and to
away
be
from
sure that they didn't cheat,
Yeah.
his helper was an electrician. And they taped everything with purple tape.
that.
Okay, well,
Okay.
this
anyway,
this is
This may be something technical later that
Yeah,
we need
yeah,
to
on that.
discuss.
Okay, but the you know, in chapter what is it, chapter 5, you know, they show a lot of talk about a lot of different formats and ways to conduct a race. And again, we over the years we've done just about all of them. And so if we, you know, we haven't even thought about yet what the novice regatta is going to look like. So you know, we might want to take a look at one of those you know, formats and say, yeah, that'd be kind of fun to
try that one.
try that this year and see what it looks like.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe a round robin or something. Yeah.
Because again, you know, the notice of race and sailing instructions have not been written yet, so
Right.
we, you know, those options are open still to us.
Okay.
And you got to think about scoring events. We score under Appendix A, but there is all kinds of options to score. One of them, if I can find it, is the cock sprague, where it depends on the number of boats, whether what the value of the race is. Now that I hope I get the right pile.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that or make the determination on when we do have the 16 nationals here?
Yes.
That's where we have to really kind of toe the line. Everything else, all the other ones are not a big issue.
Exactly.
But that one we have to toe the line because of its ramifications to.
Yeah, it's a much more important, and I talked about that last time. You know, there's our Sunday or Wednesday night racing, which is kind of a fun, laid back thing. But then when you start getting into regional or national races, you have to really up your game in terms of making sure that we're following all the rules.
Exactly.
We got to man the committee boat with you know, our best people, so that everything can be done you know, well on the committee boat. We don't make any mistakes on a committee boat. You know, everything has to be. We have to really up our game for that event. Chapter 6, course configurations. It talks all kinds of course configurations.
Yep.
However,
Oh,
we have to specify in our sailing instructions what course configurations we're going to use, and that is on page 5 of the sailing instructions. Now before the sailing instructions are written back in you know, when we're surveying the membership and rethinking what we're doing, you know, we can put in you know, different courses. I don't know what you know, all these different course configurations that they want. But once we write the instructions, we're stuck with them. We're stuck with these. And for all of our club series races, these are listed on page 5. Now, we as a rule never use the T or the W course. Or the O course, because it requires moving the committee boat from the start line, you know, from one point to another point on the race course. It just really is cumbersome to you know, move the committee boat.
We did it in Davenport all the time.
Did you?
It was, but we were on the river.
Yeah.
The I course was a predominant course, obviously.
Well, you can
Yeah,
always,
It was only so wide.
and we had big 25-foot John boats, you know, the big, deep
Yeah.
river John boats. But
well, you can use the John boat as a committee boat. Go up there and
Yes, you
put
could.
that flag on there, and and there's an anchor, you can do it that way.
Yeah.
But for us, the 6 courses we use work better on this lake.
Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about the courses, they're talking about having a junior Olympics at Perry next year.
No, well,
Or
they're
what-
having
or
a
what-
festival
Festival.
this month.
Okay, when they get the rules from that, it's not the argument. The Olympic committee that sets it up for the kids will tell them what courses to run. It's a prerequisite for hosting the regatta. You will run
Races.
these courses. They will be an hour and a half race, and they give you all the things that you must follow to make it a legal race. If you do the lightning class, it's the same thing. You get a thing from the lightning saying that you're authorized to do the lightning districts. And you're going to run this kind of courses. You're going to have so-and-so as a measurer. This is how you're going to run it. And if you don't want to do it that way, then it's not a legal regatta. So when you get above our level, it just gets a little more complicated. But usually it's nothing really weird. All they want to do is that people who race lightnings they understand the courses. This is what we sail, and it goes back from back years where you could travel from one lake to the other, and everybody had their own sailing instructions, and they had their own courses, and had everything else that the visiting skipper was put under a truly disadvantage. If you go down to the Nude, National Offshore One Design, we did it at St. Pete, and I went down with John Kling, and we towed the sonar down there. And it was high water, and 2 of the hoists were out. And in the party before the regatta, they put this big sign up that two hoists are out. So instead of being in the water by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, you must be in line. So you're there, and we're rigging the boat, and his crew is saying, we need to get in line. Oh, we got plenty of time. I said, well, just get in line. So we tow it up there, and there's this nice, lovely lady in her wedding gown white with the big blue tie and the hat and the big ribbon. She's standing there, and at 10 o'clock, she blows a whistle, and she makes a mark in the street.
Yep.
Anybody
If
behind
thou
it?
aren't there, thou don't race.
That's harsh.
Well, but
Yeah,
they
were
don't
told.
they don't sneak it up on you.
Right?
But and people appealed it, and they said no, sorry.
We told you.
And we told, and they none of that, but they posted on the bulletin board in big letters. We still had 240 boats. We sailed with the sonar, and some new catamaran had come out, and they started last. And they had a longer course by 2 miles. And they were back at the beach before any
Still
of the
smoked
other
them.
monohulls finished. But that's just something, when you're part of a race committee somewhere else, first thing you do is you read the notice of race. Then you read the sailing instructions. And then you ask the head judge or race officer, are there any instructions from the class rules that you got to abide by? And then then you're ready to go, and you're not caught unawares when a guy says, go out there and set me the W course.
And you're going,
Yeah, wait a minute.
So, but it's learning experience every Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Bernie.
You're welcome.
We've got to use the courses that's listed in our SI.
Okay.
Leeward Gates. We have a member, Alan Franson, who is a major proponent of, he's in favor of Leeward Gates.
I like Gates.
He wants to use Leeward Gates. There is a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a challenge with Leeward Gates. Wes, you're not going to understand this because we haven't got to that part of the thing. But there is what they call the zone around a mark. So you got a mark, and it's a three around each mark. There's a 3 boat length zone. So if this is 1 boat, 2 boats, 3 boats. So this zone extends all the way around that mark. And the committee boat is a mark.
Okay.
So if you got the committee boat down here, it's also got a zone around it. So there's 1 boat, 2 boats, 3 boats. Anything attached to the committee boat, for example, we parked the John boat next to it. It is not part of the mark because it's casually attached.
Okay.
So in this example, we got let's say we got the wind coming from here, so we got the windward mark. We got an offset mark over here. We got the pin, and then we got a leeward mark down here.
Okay.
Each mark will have a zone around it.
Okay.
So anyway, leeward marks or a gate a mark down here. It cannot have overlapping zones around it. The book specifies they would like to see at least 3 to 4 boat lengths between these zones.
Okay.
Okay, so that means there's 3 boat lengths here, 3 boat lengths, another 3 boat lengths. But you also have to have navigable water on the outside. So you can't have a shoreline going across here or shallow water or something because you got to have some navigable water on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not a big deal if we're talking about lasers that are 12 feet long.
Right.
Is a laser 12 feet?
That's good enough.
But let's say we got a Capri 25s. Now then, you got quite
6, 9, 12, 15 times 25. You got a lot of lake. You got to
you
cover.
got a lot of lake.
Okay.
There's a lot of places in A-arm that's not that wide.
Right. That's true. Right.
There's a lot of places on the lake in it.
Yes. Most places in B-arm, if you're careful about how you set it, it could be you could get it in there. But there's a lot of places on A-arm that is just simply not wide enough to get it in there. Then the other thing that I find difficult about the leeward gate is that the relative width between the marks versus the relative length of the course is going to be. I mean, you could literally have this width here almost, or maybe half of what the entire length of the course is.
Sure.
And the whole purpose of having a leeward gate is giving the racer an option. Do I want to go tactically go around the windward or the left or the right mark? So, in my opinion, this length here to this leeward or this mark down here has to be pretty far along to make it worthwhile. And keep in mind, we got routinely we'll have 40 degree wind shifts, and and really what happens is everybody just ends up going around the same mark.
I mean, what I like is if I'm behind somebody and I'm just not going to catch that guy, I haven't caught him all year. If he goes, to port, I'm thinking I might as well shoot starboard. I got nothing to lose.
Sure.
That's the only fun part about a gate.
Yeah.
So on a gate, you can pick either one of those
Yes.
to
You
go
pick
around?
either one to go around,
But-
You gotta go between the gate.
Yeah,
but you gotta go between the two. Either
So
one
I have
way
a
or that,
question.
Either
Yeah.
a port
So
or a
one-
starboard.
okay.
It depends which one you go.
So
around.
Okay.
Have you seen
let's-
the American?
let's say you have no
Yeah,
offset.
I guess
You
it
see-
explains
you
why
see- you
sometimes
see
that
how
one
they
goes
go
one
and you're
way.
running a
Yeah.
strict windward leeward.
Okay, I didn't
Okay.
understand
They
why.
want, they wanna split, you know,
And
if
your
you've seen the two boats go.
Committee boat is
you
up
see them
here,
Split, that's what's happening.
Okay, so but somebody went through.
and here's your starting line
Yeah.
pin, and here's your
Just stay
finish
away
line
from each
pin,
okay,
for example.
okay.
Because you're running multiples and all that. So you're coming back, and you're coming to finish.
Yeah,
Does this gate, does it not exist anymore in my mind?
it's not a mark of the leg that you are on.
No mark exists if you're not on that leg.
So Barry and I were kicking Barry was, I was just ballast. Kicking Art's butt once again, and we were helping each other, quote
Okay.
unquote, skippers. We better go through here to make sure we're legal. And so we did, and Art figured, I got nothing to lose. I'm in second place. So he bypassed and went straight to the finish line.
Uh-huh. If it's not a mark of the leg that you are on, then it does not exist. Just like, we got the committee boat here, and we got the pin. Well, the pin is a mark. But if you're not finishing, then it
Doesn't exist.
It
That's
doesn't
what I thought.
exist.
Yep.
Does that make any sense?
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, even Barry couldn't remember, and we decided to play it safe.
Right.
Otherwise,
Now, in
we
your
could have run them
situation-
off.
In your situation, what was the square up there again?
The committee boat.
That was the committee boat up there, and that was your two
That was a start line on
start
starboard
line
and finish line on the other side.
On the other
Yeah.
side.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that would be big difference.
Okay.
Now, the hard thing is we were starting just as the big J boats were coming into the gate.
Gotcha.
And just as we got started, all the air went away.
Gone.
Sucked up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When
No,
you
I can
sail
see- I
next
can
to
see
Barry,
that.
that happens all the time.
We got the wind coming here. We got the windward mark. By the way, it's never a windward mark. It's the number 1 mark, the number 2 mark,
Yeah.
the number 3 mark.
Okay.
The number 1 because it doesn't always have. We don't always run races windward leeward. There's times.
Number one's not always windward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the number 1 mark is not always to the wind. But let's see, where was I going to go? Windward mark, leeward mark. I forgot now what I was going to say.
There's a committee boat in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Very nice marks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're,
A windward mark, a leeward mark. We can set the committee boat to the committee boat and then the finish pin to leeward of the leeward mark, and it's in our sailing
Oh.
instructions.
What
Start
would that be?
finish lines may be set below the number 3 mark.
oh, yeah.
Finish
yeah,
lines may be set above the number 1 mark. And we do this frequently. It just mixes things up. It just gives things some
Okay.
interest.
Confuses people so they lose.
So
No, actually what it does is it keeps them there close to start a second race.
Right.
Because
Gotcha.
the bottom mark
Yeah.
doesn't exist if for a 2-lap race.
Yeah.
One, and the scow is coming down, but the FJ is still there. That's still a mark for the FJ.
yeah,
Right.
And then the scow just can go anywhere he wants, as long as he goes between
The pin and
the pin and the committee boat.
and it creates a downwind finish. So you're starting. Let's say we're going to do 2 laps. You go up. That's 1 lap. 2 laps. This is on your second lap. This mark does not exist anymore. You can,
The second lap is the committee boat.
and then you finish. And you come downwind finish.
Right.
How often do you sail a downwind finish in a race?
I don't know. We'll do a couple a year.
If we're stuck in A-arm and it's light air, it's easier to do it, especially if the wind is coming out of the A-arm.
Yeah.
If the wind is going in, we seldom do it.
Uh-huh.
That makes a difference that way. Because A-arm is shaped and being in a funnel, if the wind is blowing in,
Yeah.
you get a Venturi effect and you get a lot more velocity. If the wind is coming out, it kind of dies.
Gotcha.
So you can get them to come out of there.
The map of the lake, right up here is the marina. Right there's the marina.
Okay.
So A arm runs almost due north and south.
Okay.
And it turns, and then B arm, which is where we do most of the races. And by the way, last year the board dictated that, hey, we want most of the races run right in B arm because they wanted to be able to have folks sit on the hill and watch the races and
Gotcha.
promote things. So, no problem, we can do that. So this is A arm, and then this is called Liggett Cove. This little part up here.
Gotcha.
The main body is southwest northeast.
Yeah.
A arm is north and south,
Yeah.
and the other one is
Do we ever go into Liggett Cove at all?
yeah.
The Transjack.
Yes.
Well,
Transjack,
plus the
I
fact
imagine.
if you do the wind map,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it sometimes is the only good part of the lake.
Because it's got a good what, northwest, southeast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Northeast.
Also, when you're looking at the course, you got to also start thinking about wind shadows because
Yes.
we have some pretty good sized hills on.
Have you seen them?
No, I haven't
I
seen
saw
that.
the wind map.
Well, they're
They're available.
they're on the website, but here
We don't tell people.
that tells you what happens to the wind
Yeah.
the wind shadow for any wind speed on that lake.
Oh, okay.
We got to get Doug Day to come back and give his
I want that.
Racing.
racing class. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, where is this on the website?
We can't tell you.
It is. It's go under sailing instruction. Go under sailing.
It'll be under
but
the
for an
racing.
extra fee.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Racing there someplace.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't remember where it's at.
It's under that racing headline. Yeah.
okay.
Remember we talked Sunday about the
Yes.
bluff being in the way?
Yeah,
That if the wind goes one direction, it's going to be a good mark. But if the wind shifts with you, that high hill, and if you happen to get that wind shift as that went with you, you got nothing between the two marks. The guy behind you just went and zip right on by.
yep.
Just the way it was. But those are on the webpage. We did that 45 years ago. Since they haven't changed the lake,
Yep.
it maybe
Just
got a
bigger, maybe
a little
bit
taller,
broader, but that's about it.
but it really is accurate.
The windward, the number one mark is usually upwind.
Okay.
The number two mark, some kind of offset, and then the number three is the leeward mark.
Okay.
So so in the designations, I mean, like this is an I course, and you'll see a 1, a 3, but there's no 2.
Oh, okay. So it's not 1 and 2. It's just 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Okay.
Why do we use an offset?
To keep people from sailing down
Yeah,
on the next fleet, if we have our 60 boats, we will have an offset at the windward mark, or the first mark,
Spreads
to get them
those
over off.
Who has the right of way coming down? It'd be the
Well, it's
with
port
the
starboard.
rules,
It'd be either
whatever rule applies.
But if you
or
have
when we're lured.
windward leeward comes first, though, right?
No, port stop.
no, port starboard comes first, and then it's windward leeward.
Yeah.
But opposing vessels.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you're coming down and you're both on port, windward boat loses. If you're the starboard boat, the port boat loses. So
What you're talking about is the spinnaker, with the spinnaker up or coming downwind.
Coming downwind.
Coming
Yeah.
downwind, wing on
So
wing.
you're the windward boat.
yes,
You're the windward boat.
are you on
So
starboard?
you would not have rights over this boat.
Unless you were on starboard.
If your boom is on the starboard side, then yeah.
Starboard to starboard, windward has it. Okay.
Windward loses.
Windward loses.
Windward
Windward
loses.
has to get out of the way.
Yeah. Windward.
If they're on starboard,
leeward
starboard,
boat
okay.
becomes a stand on boat.
Oh, I love this. I want this.
You're either on port or
It's not gonna
starboard,
help you.
depending
Yeah.
upon
It's not going to help.
The boom.
where the
I'm gonna get them all back, fellas.
Uh,
Yeah,
By
okay.
the thing.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
It's coming back.
So
Okay, so
But,
yes, if we would use a offset mark, to spread out the
Yeah.
boats, so that the boats coming, leaving the mark can have, have room to set up their.
As long as they don't know, or as long as they don't think that it's a split mark.
Well, because that would be in the sailing instructions
Okay,
that,
was
if
a gate.
it's a windward gate,
Yeah.
For example,
Yeah.
that's what you're referring to.
Right, exactly.
That would have to be specified in the sailing instructions. But we kind of frequently use an offset mark just to spread the rivers to from the departers from the.
Yeah,
from
because
the gate.
that's a good idea, especially when you're using a lot of different boat types.
And so, and you have to think about when you're setting up the course. What's going to happen out here on this race
Yep.
course? We got sea scows with thistles, with Sweet 16s, with lasers. You're going to want to spread the love.
And what we want is all of them to finish within a second or two.
No, no,
That's what we
within
want.
a minute.
Okay, a minute.
See, within a minute, a second or two.
I can't write that.
That's
fast.
right, one per second.
I remember a race we did years ago, and they were all you started them everybody on Portsmouth handicap numbers and
Inverse.
Inversed.
inversed, and your starting time started based on your handicap. So the
So
Sweet
y'all
16.
finished
How the
at same
hell did
time.
you
Theoretically, if everybody sails to their numbers, they would all finish at the exact same time.
Yeah, but how did you get the signals?
It's easy.
Correctly.
You just give them a sheet of paper. It says you start 6 minutes after the starting signal. You start 7 minutes after the starting signal. You
Oh,
start
okay.
9 minutes after the starting signal. The Sea Scout starts 12 minutes behind the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And
12 minutes.
when you tell them it's to be an hour race, you do not set a finish line. You let them sail and you keep watching of how fast they're moving. And when the leading boat goes around your last mark, and let's say the last time where you were setting, it took you 17 minutes to get up there. Well, if 17 more minutes will make it an hour race, you set the finish line there. If you got to go down to 10 minutes, you set the finish line there.
Okay.
I did it, and 48 boats finished in 17 seconds.
17 seconds.
That's how close I got
Holy
to setting it up.
wow.
Bet your committee.
And
hated you.
everybody was thrilled because they finished on a spinnaker run,
Oh,
and we had lightnings and thistles and everything, and a
a
Highlander
big race right down.
right down to the end.
Oh, I bet they had fun.
It was, and what best thing about it is, you didn't have to take time.
Hmm.
You just
Oh, I
First, second,
suppose, yeah,
third.
it's
You
already,
just-
it's already
you
calculated.
finished
Yep.
as they finished. See,
Right.
just
You're just recording numbers.
record the numbers. So there's a lot of ways to do this that are all within the rule, but you
Okay.
got to tell the contestants
Got it.
what's going on
In the sailing instructions.
in the sailing instructions.
Relative to this international regatta, we're going to have 3 races, right?
Mhm.
The first race is going to be kind of a crapshoot. You're not going to know how long to set this course to get our target,
75
hour
minutes.
long race. So you're going to have to make a best guess of it. Then in the second and third race, you'll be able to fine tune this to see. Do we need to shorten it up? Do we need to lengthen it? Do we need to have more laps?
Well, at the same time, the wind changes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
all
Yeah.
those things. You'll make adjustments even on our Sunday races. You're going to have to make adjustments. Bernie said one race here a few weeks ago, and just before the wind started, before the start. The wind had an 180-degree wind shift, and what used to be the windward mark became the leeward, and the leeward mark became the windward. That stuff happens all the time on this lake.
We let the committee boat go on the anchor, so it went 200 feet from here to there. We went over and picked up the hippity hop, put it over, changed the heading and made it a starboard course, and didn't lose any starting time, because it was still before the prep signal.
Got it.
So, but it's, you gotta be on top of it. And 2 weeks ago,
On this
I
lake,
wasn't,
yeah.
remember when Rob was way over?
Yeah,
I should have had her put the flag up instantly,
yes,
not waiting for him to come back.
yeah,
But
we did
it was so unexpected, I thought, wait a minute. And then he didn't come back, and I said, get it up, because he was over early. But
Yeah,
even then, it screwed up the guy in the Scott. He thought he was over.
exactly, but, you know.
But that's,
Rob, almost 3 minutes down the line
yes.
Well, you only
before
keep
we
it up
called
to
him
4.
back.
You only keep the.
Well, when we got individual up with a sound signal, he came back.
Oh, okay.
So but he still ended up beating the thistle, coming back and going all around. But you have to be ready, and I wasn't, but I will be again. But that's why you put the flags on the deck, just in case.
So you can pick it up.
If the weather's iffy, you put up the abandonment.
Yeah, like we did last.
General recalls, unless people are starting to get a lot more aggressive than they have in the past. You got, you can see them crowding the line for the first race. Then you might want to get that out. But typically, over earlies aren't that often.
I'll usually do one a year.
That's it.
And
If
you
you're
know
not-
when
if
you've
you're not
done it.
tripping over
Yeah,
one side, if
pretty
you're not
much.
really
And you're
racing,
waiting,
right?
like or looking over your shoulder in case they missed you.
I do a line sight. I'm sighting. Oh well, that tree over there. If I'm above or below that line, I do a line sight. So, last Saturday when I was running the races, we set an extremely long course. I had an anchor mark right down at the dam. And I had the other mark clear down here at the junction of A and B arm. However, the wind was almost northwest, coming out of the northwest. Well, consequently, my start line was actually a reach. It was a reaching start.
Right.
So what I did is I set the pin way upwind of the committee boat. It wasn't at 90 degrees. It was way up windward. And so they was able to get it favored the pin end for really
Yeah,
well.
For
So
a port start?
they started out on starboard, but
Okay.
the pin was
Pin would have been,
way
yeah,
favored.
a very favored.
Whatever you can do to make a fair start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the whole key is
Yeah.
the fair is for the competitors. And even in the super duper judges meetings, if you're in a major regatta and everybody's on the line and they're 1 second over, you don't call it.
Just let them
You
go.
can't make it any better.
can't
Right.
make it
You know,
easier than that, yeah.
Because and again, like we talked about Sunday, how can we improve this? Well, we get Bernie to go out there and push on that shore, and we just kind of move the lake a little bit.
When you guys are doing PRO, you're going to want to kind of have an idea of what kind of races that we have been running. So if we've been running a lot of I courses, don't run an I course. Do
Shake it up.
Change it up. Keep it fresh so that and keep it new. It gets boring if we're coming out and doing the same race week after week after week. And we got a lot of options in terms of new courses, and experiment with it. Try to set them in weird places. Set a mark down into Sailboat Cove or something.
Kind of like we did last.
Last Sunday,
Last Sunday.
Bernie stuck a mark right up here in this little bitty cove up here.
I stuck it.
Okay, you stuck it up there, and
Like
that
him.
was fine. That was fine. It
Yeah.
worked. And that second leg, it was in a deep wind shadow,
Yep.
and so anybody with any brains took a long course, went way out, didn't go a straight line, went around, and that way you got some wind on there. That just it just.
But for political reasons, please don't set an offset mark deep in Sailboat Cove.
No.
They get the feeling like
Yeah.
we're taking over the lake, and they cry, and I'm a member of their yacht
Understand.
club, and I have to hear it. They have some merit in their case.
Okay.
We never set them past that first wake mark.
I appreciate that, Bernie, you son of a gun. But when you set it right next to shore there, and we've got to reach up and pull the leaves to swing around the mark, I think that's
Actually, we measure the boat that you're in
yeah.
and take off 6 inches.
And that's the beam, right?
You think of him as Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
We don't do this very often, but it is entirely appropriate to do. One fleet can be doing one race course, whereas another fleet can be doing something completely different. You could have a windward, leeward, and an offset out here, and the lasers could be doing a straight eye, and the scows can be doing a triangle.
Okay.
That's an appropriate thing to do.
That's what the course board will let you do on the back of the committee
Oh,
boat.
yeah, yeah.
Because it's got
Okay.
3
Do
different
we have
columns.
enough pins in order to do that, though?
Same
Yes.
pins. Same
Same
pins, the same marks, only one of them will do a windward leeward over the first and third mark.
Oh, yeah.
The other one will do a windward offset,
Gotcha.
or we can even do a triangle windward leeward like we did 2 weeks ago. And you can do it all on the same course, depending on what boats are sailing.
And we can do long and short courses.
Yeah,
We have
Okay.
there's a mark on there. It's a tetrahedron. It's a pyramid shaped
Right.
thing, and we can set that up as a short course, and it's specified in the sailing instructions.
Okay.
That if a tetrahedron is here, the number 1 fleet will do the short course. So they'll go up around here, and then the thistles and the sea scows will go up in there and do the long
Got a
course.
long one. Okay.
So,
which is the red ball.
the balls are all common, common marks for everything.
Right.
But we have a tetrahedron, so we can set up
We do
different
have one. Okay.
different courses. You could you literally have with the tetrahedron, you could literally have 3 courses running at the same time. You could do lasers, the short course, Sweet 16s, and that, and then scows running running
Okay.
a triangle. So we have lots of options in terms of courses, and use them and be creative with them, and
I tell you what, I'd be confused as
Yeah.
If I was
Yeah.
a novice, I'd be confused as I'd be confused as even not being a novice.
But that's why we're trying to
That'd be
incorporate
confusing as hell.
Wednesday night racing and
Yeah.
Saturday afternoons when the big cruises are out.
Yeah.
Go out and sail your dinghy and get practice on starts and get help from the committee boat, because they're not a competitive boat in that race. We'll treat them as competitors, gentlemen and sailors, but we'll help them to learn. That's our hope.
Sure.
The lake is our biggest restriction,
Well, yeah.
and but actually I've been
Lake and
all over.
Yeah.
I've been on Carlisle, which is huge compared to us. And their problem is all the shoreline looks the same.
Oh, yeah.
You really have a hard time telling which way is north. And they'll set up 4 different courses on the same set of marks. When they had a major regatta, they had 420s, then they had Y-flyers and thistles and sunfish and something else. And they just put it up on the back of the committee boat. But they told them before we started, read the
Sailing
of
instructor.
course, yeah. The worst one I ever had is up here, Weatherby, and their course board is no bigger than this,
Oh
and
my
and
God.
and, none of the signals were bigger than 2 inches.
Oh my gosh.
How the heck
To
do
re-
you, how?
Well, their answer was, we all know what we're doing. That
Yeah.
was, they didn't invite me back. I offered to get them a bigger course board and give them a set of flags. Oh, our flags are fine. 6 by 8.
Wow.
That's it. And the starting signal was up and down on pulleys, but they had a horn that was automatic, so we ignore the flags and we just go with the horn.
At Jeff City, we went to visit them when we went to pick up the
Yeah.
Capri, and we met them at their little city park lake, and I mean it's tiny, and they don't have a committee or committee boat. They have a marker, 2 markers, and an electronic timer, and
Oh,
you hit the button and it starts the sequence, and blows the horns and does everything.
Quivira has
oh,
that.
interesting.
Because they had one fellow who was starting the races, and it seemed like he was always right at the starting line when the horn went off.
I wonder how that works. Yeah.
So this Eugene fellow, who is a engineer, not university trained, but went to the library and read, and bright guy. He developed it, designed it. I said, "Can I have one of those?" He said, "Yeah, I'll make you one."
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
the drawings
Yeah.
for it, and the parts, the list, and everything I need for it.
Right?
But
I thought that was slick. You know, you wouldn't.
before we got the signal that Ed got, I had arranged with the guy who sells this nationwide horn signal, air horns and all. They were going to modify it for a 6-minute sequence, up to 4 starts.
Oh,
All we would have
Wow.
had to do was push the button, and it would have give the
automatically
first,
done.
and then it would have give you your 1 minute, then your start, then 1 minute, and then all the way through. But the club bought the other stuff first. So I said, "Gee, I'm sorry," but he said, "That's a good idea." And I said, "Well, we thought it was a good idea. It's worked for us. That extra minute in there gives people a chance to clear the line, and it gives the race committee a chance to put the signals up correctly."
Yeah.
Because you've got to understand that that's the official. And there's been more fights on shore on when the flag went up or when the flag came down. Under the rules, for us, it's when it hits the cleat and when it breaks. Start, stop. That's the rule. So pulling on flags, pulling one down and pulling one up doesn't work.
No,
Yeah, there's just too much
too
time.
much
Doesn't
time
work.
in between. Yeah.
Doesn't work. So, but
Especially if you're coming to the line at about
Oh,
8
yeah.
knots.
oh yeah, it doesn't, and
Doesn't work.
Flying in.
Is there any comments, questions, anything? You guys got any input you want to put out there?
Just a lot of stuff.
it is.
But practice, and then it'll start. You'll start becoming clear and yes.
And if I'm
Not to do with racing, but in my mind, when I'm coming down on a run, if I have no advantage on port for the wind, I should always move my boom over to starboard just to have the defense.
Oh,
yeah,
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 that's a tactic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
too
Yeah,
many
you
too
know,
many years ago to count.